Welcome, everyone, to the simulation frequency. On today's episode, we're going to be doing a deep dive on several topics. It's going to be touching a lot of different things. I tried to include them all in my thumbnail, but we're going to be talking about time and how that really functions and works. We're going to be talking about luck and money out of thin air. Also going to be touching upon psychedelics and the simulation at large and just reality at large. And also high level touch upon CERN and things like the Philadelphia Project, because I've been thinking about all of these different things and how they're absolutely all tied together. So without further ado, let's get right into this episode. If you are on this channel, you have found yourself definitely on the weirder side of YouTube, because my channel is unlike any other channel on YouTube. There's probably very few channels that discuss the topics that I do the way that I do in the fashion that I do. So if you are new here, please make sure to like and subscribe the video if you ended up enjoying it at the end of it. And to the people that have been here since the very beginning, I really appreciate you. I actually have a couple of members, so shout out to you for joining and being in there and engaging with me. I love the engagement. I'm going to flash the members for a moment up on the screen. I really appreciate your interest in my content because I do work very hard on this. I do deeply believe in these things that I'm showing you. I don't feel like I'm trying to be a grifter. I know that it's messed up because some of the folks on here that are into quote unquote manifestation content, like the first guy I'm going to talk to you about, his name is Kevin Trudeau. He's been to jail, and there's been a few people in the community that have been to jail or that have had like legal run-ins and things of this nature, which it can sort of maybe take away from their messaging sometimes. But hopefully people got paid what they were supposed to get paid back, or they felt vindicated with the time he served. I don't know, but there's other folks out here that have criminal records and they have really huge YouTube channels, and I don't think it necessarily stops what they're saying from being truthful. It's just that, are they perhaps being more grandiose with it than it actually is? Are they trying to sell you the fantasy like all packaged up to where you'll get it in like 2 seconds and you're just completely bypassing all of the information and knowledge and like knowing within that you need to do? Because this is all an inside game. And once you realize that, when you start to turn to some of these folks for information, or that you think that they have the answer somehow, they really don't. You're the one that has the answer, and you'll realize this once you go through enough of meditation and this content. You will start to learn that everything is basically saying the same thing, that we are all connected, that this is all one big hallucination of consciousness. This is a dream within a dream within a dream. This is the lucid waking dream, God's dream for all of experience to be played out. We are basically like nodes in the simulation where consciousness can stream into our said avatar and have an experience. And through that experience, it's up to us whether or not we kind of stay in that amnesia state, or we attempt to wake up and understand that we are nothing but a set of certain programs that have been in place throughout centuries. At this point, we go back to our ancestors. We know that there's fear-based things that were ingrained into them that can end up coming out in the children or offspring will experience those same type of fears, which if that happens, that ends up keeping you away potentially from reality that you want to reside in, so to speak. And I also am somebody who believes in the multiverse theory, where we are just infinite copies of copies upon copies. So we are like infinitely stacked layers. And I think it's just a way to explain something like imagination, infinite imagination. How can you structurally and mathematically explain infinite information, infinite imagination, infinite Godhead mind, infinite projection? It's really basically impossible, but to our human understanding, that is the best way we can come to describe right now something that is indescribable. And through the understanding that there are a set of systems, programs, and patterns that are running through this simulation and through yourself, because technically you are the simulation. And once you go through some sort of psychedelic experience, which I am not advocating for, which I can talk about mine in a bit, but oftentimes people have different ways that they have these experiences. One, through NDEs. I've been hearing many people giving these same type of experiences or talk throughs of these same types of mechanisms and behaviors or archetypes or things that they're seeing during these NDEs, or during, like I said, any type of medicinal healing or other psychedelic experiences induced by other things outside of what you could also use is like heavy breathing techniques can induce these, or like chakra meditations can induce these. Joe D, I'm pretty sure, is famous for holding group sessions that induce this without any type of external stimulation, if you will. It's all through internal meditation, and then you reach that level of a God body bliss. And then some people have out of body experiences, and then you can also have things during your lucid dreams, crazy experiences, and then you can also experience things in the hypnagogic state, which I have been playing with for quite a while now, and I feel like I've had some pretty wild experiences during that state that I'm going to talk about. Chat GBT does not like when I talk to him about some of these subjects. They tread it very lightly because they don't want you to border on the edge of insanity, which I totally get and I totally understand, because even now when I hear certain people talk about certain things, I'm not sure what level of tapping into the universe that they're doing, or if it's within their level of imagination. Like, for example, I love channelers. I love all of them because technically I do see them all as myself. It's one of those things where once you view the universe a certain way, you see everybody as yourself, or better said, you can step into that complete persona of that person and understand everything about them from every directional way or every angle of that person's life that they may have experienced. You can sit and attempt to experience that and completely attempt to understand where that person is coming from. And it's that level of understanding that will kind of lead you to the knowing that you are all connected back to one consciousness, one universal Godhead, whatever you want to call it. It's all just one expanded type of experience for information and data. And data is always free flowing. And within the concept of time, so for example, if we look at time, there's obviously things that we can physically observe as entropy, but that is within the confines of the simulation, and that's why it exists as such, so we can have this said experience within the earth quote unquote realm, where we can have feelings, we can have all of our senses, we can program our avatar avatar, so to speak, to live out whatever reality we wanted to live out. Whether it's a copy reality of you being rich and hitting the lottery, going back to luck. If it's you becoming like a scientist and maybe becoming an astronaut and flying to Mars and the moon, I don't know. People come here with many missions. Some people are compelled to be teachers and just different things that your soul, quote unquote, feels called to do. Some people obviously don't get this as easily. They have to go within, and there's like all different ways that people can kind of discover what their passions are in life. But I definitely think it's to have pure experience of awareness and then drawing that awareness to be able to focus on what it is that you want to experience and then have that happen for you. And that could be through the act of creating something through your thoughts, but you're not technically creating anything really, because God or imagination has already imagined it into place. You're just getting on, quote unquote, that frequency, which sounds extremely hippy dippy, but to make it make sense in this reality is that once something happens, you branch off into a next reality. The moment you start to make decisions, you start to use things like visualization, using things like what was popularized by Neville Goddard, state akin to sleep, playing very heavily in this area, imagining what you want, and using repetition over and over again to release whatever type of belief that you may hold on to that isn't truthful for you. Like, for example, if you don't believe that you could ever make $100,000, I'm not saying that this is truthful in every situation, but in many situations, what will end up happening is that you will never end up pursuing those things. So you will never make decisions, actions, any type of inspired action, like they like to call it, anything that's affiliated to that thing. It wouldn't end up branching off because you wouldn't be doing it, right? Even if it's small micro actions that compound over time, because they end up branching into all these copy universes of you doing that specific thing. If you don't end up doing that, those branches never end up going off into existence where you can experience them. So if you believe that you can't achieve something, you will never take any type of thoughts, micro actions. And that's why everybody says, thoughts create reality, thoughts shape reality, etc., etc. It's because the level of what's going on in your head 24/7, it's your playback loop. What are you constantly playing on the radio of your brain? Imagine your brain as a radio, a tuner. That's what we all like to say in the community. But actually, let's go a step further and talk about what is actually broadcasting on a 24/7 basis from your radio brain. Is it smooth jazz, like where you're calm, cool, collected all the time, your cortisol's in check, you're loving life, you're always thinking about the next best thing for yourself, you're visualizing your best life, you're trying to treat the avatar well, etc., etc.? Or are you always doubting yourself? Are you on the, slow depression station where you're always doubting yourself or always pissed off at everybody? Because what'll happen is you'll start to have your mirror neurons activate, and you will then start to have a playback loop in your head. That's how addictions get started, and they're very difficult to end because you have your neurons hoeing a road in your brain and driving down that brain road every single day, repeating the same thing every day. And it's never going to steer off course and start a new road and kill that old road until you start to actively potentially repeat something else or start new behaviors that would hoe that new road, so to speak. One is strengthening the communications between the dendrites and the synapses in your brain, the neurology, what you're doing is rewiring your brain. This is possible, but it is possible only if you actively attempt to do it, because it is really easy to get stuck into ruts and the brain gets stagnant. That's why it's important to always try to do things that are new and novel. I have episodes about this because novelty increases the synapses in your brain. It basically makes your communications much stronger, like I mentioned. And specifically when you do it paired with certain things, like, for example, whole idea of time. You can meditate on the idea of time and begin to expand your awareness on the idea of time. And what will end up happening is that you will gather more information from the field, so to speak, of the simulation, or just whatever you want to call it, the Akashic record, the ethers, the field, whatever you want to call it. You will gather in that information and you will start to understand and think and look at time in different ways. And recently, when I think about time, there is no real such thing as time. When you say this, it means, from an entropy perspective, I get that things eventually go sour. Like I said before, it's due to the programming in the sim, but outside of the sim, there is no real time. What you're experiencing is static. It's like just a constant flickering of reality, if you will. It is almost comparable in my head to a static of a TV. That's the best way I can describe it. It's always on, it doesn't stop. There is no past, present, or future, so to speak. It's just other parallel copy realities that are simultaneously playing out that could be assessed at any time. And physics really proves this. There's different experiments at this point with entanglement and the double slit that prove that there's spooky things going on, pop in and out of existence. Like, for example, it'll be at one place and then disappear and then come back. And where did it go when it disappeared? So there's so much that we don't understand in the world of physics, and many people argue about this, and many people bust on people like me that are kind of pseudoscientists over here trying to make sense of this. But I'm honestly just trying to make sense of it to prove a theory that I really truly believe in, that connects back to a larger theory of everything, kind of like, how other folks on here do, like Tom Campbell. We all have our own kind of flavor to it. I've really discovered mine many years ago through that experience that I was telling you before with psychedelics. I took a heroic dose of LSD when I was 14, unbeknownst to myself. So I am by no means telling you to engage with this type of behavior. I would have never done it if I knew what I was even getting myself into. And I just know there's so many layers to life due to that experience that if I never had that experience, I might question a lot of this stuff too, or look at it as kooky. And I really do believe, unless you have like a life shattering experience like this, it can be hard to break the veil of what you think is truthful in this reality. Because in the experience that I had, when you hear people talk about NDEs, when you hear people talk about out of body experiences, I experienced some of that stuff here in the lucid state while I was in that induced, obviously, psychedelic mindset. But I was able to be in certain areas and make them completely change into new scenarios and scenes. Like, for example, I was in a big baseball field because they were trying to calm me down because I was freaked out, because I did experience what would have been that blackout death type of situation, or when you kind of feel like you've gone through the pits of hell. So some parts were very terrorizing, I will say, but other parts were extremely interesting, curious, unforgettable, makes you realize that reality is not what we think that it is. And then while I was in that experience, I was in that field, and it turned into an entire ocean. And I was on a boat in the ocean, and it was whatever I actually thought about would happen in front of me. It would come in waves. It's like very in and out of realities. It would come back, and I would be in touch with what I was thinking about or doing in this 3D, but then I would be able to, in a wave, go into like what would have been, I think, like 5D creation here, where I was able to, I made my hand melt. I was able to go into my mirror and turn my face into whoever I thought about instantaneously. I was in my living room. I imagined my couches floating, and they did. So it was very instantaneous. Whatever I thought of would happen. And if you hear people describing NDEs or OBEs, very same thing. Like once you think of something, boom, it happens and you experience it. And it's because you're assessing the different layers or code outside of the sim to where you can experience like God body consciousness, infinite consciousness, because otherwise your mind would be blown, because our minds are really a filter. The body in its entirety is a filter for the entire experience of the simulation. That's why you have vision. It's so we can visually, obviously, enjoy the things that are in front of us, and then the smell, so we can enjoy the roses, taste, so we can have the delicious food experiences that are here for our taking, culinary experiences that we can have. Touch, we all know what that is like. We all know what that can do for us. There is a lot of power in touch both ways, and everything, of course, is able to be abused. And then we also have the wonderful ability to hear, and that would be well, most of us do, and it makes it feel very special that we can hear this angelic music. Especially, I hear people describe this too when they do things like lucid dreaming or NDEs, etc., that the music is extremely beautiful. And it's just because they're in those frequencies where the body is able to interpret things of that nature, because in this reality it's hard for us to interpret it through the senses that we do have. They're just not capable, they're not built for, unless you build them out, because otherwise we're not programmed for that right now, because I feel like we would blow our minds, because it would just be too much information to bring in. Or if we started doing this, there would be no real fun in the game, so to speak, because it would be as if you just put like the game genie pack over life, and you just immediately started getting everything you wanted with no problem. And like, hey, don't get me wrong, there's probably some people that have this, but then they have their own levels of discomfort within their own life that perhaps you may not think that it is, but internally they may be feeling like it is. So they're still experiencing the same level of pain or anguish regardless of their situation, because every level is kind of different, so to speak. So it's really about the capacity of the game. That's why we have all the laws that we have within the simulation, and that's why we have the certain drives that we do within us to make sure that we don't throw ourselves off of the sides of cliffs for like a safety mechanism. That's why fear exists, just one example of why, in predators, obviously. But then we are driven to want to seek out, hunt, and gather for food, and it just creates this really interesting experience and data experience for the simulation to feed back to the Godhead. So it's all just like this torrid of energy. I'm pretty sure is it the heart that lets out a huge electromagnetic field on top of your brain, lets out electricity, and between the both of them, you are emitting a certain level of energy, and this energy is always free flowing and moving back and forth throughout the universe. That's why I do believe in reincarnation, why you would be able to come back down and experience the sim over and over again. And it could, who knows, be as different perspectives. Could be as a lizard, could be as a cat, could be as a completely another node or human, whatever you want to say, avatar. And that's where I think knowing that time is just this static thing. I know it feels like it isn't here. It feels like time is way shorter than we want it to be. But in all reality, you don't know. It could be a strange psychedelic trip where we've lived this lifetime a billion times and we have no idea, because we have no real proof that that hasn't happened already. So this one woman that I was listening to from an NDE was saying that she was thinking about the time before the now. And that's really why I was saying there is no past, present, and future, and no really now, because even when we're attempting to register now, we're always a couple of seconds, or I don't know, like milliseconds behind. I actually experienced this myself when I had a video I was recording and my dog was barking, and I saw that my reaction time was a little off, as if, like, the brain needs to register and the waves need to hit the eardrums, the frequencies, the hertz or whatever you want to call them of the dog bark need to register in my ear, and then I need to react. And I can see that the reaction is a little bit off. So there's no real seeming now. It's this static of energy and electricity of just the sim, in my opinion. It's the on off, the 1-0 or whatever. It's this, I can even see it if I, at this point, and this is what I was talking about, training yourself at this point, training yourself to see whatever it is that you want to see or experience, whatever it is that you want to experience. It's like turning that sixth sense on to whatever that is. Like, some people want to meet aliens. You can tune yourself for that. You could invite that into your life by focusing on that. If you want to tune yourself into learning how to win certain things, like this is on the thing for luck. If you declare that you're lucky and feel that you're lucky and know that you're lucky, suddenly you start to become lucky. And it's because you command what it is that you're focusing on. And I was watching, like I was saying, Kevin Trudeau, and he was saying luck is not something that is just out there, like a probability thing. He even says, there's been other people I've heard mention this too, but it's the probabilities that exist. You are narrowing those probabilities for yourself through whatever focus or attention that you're giving that specific thing that's happening, if you will. But in all reality, you would just be, in my opinion, trying to focus or understand or get into that reality where you have already won that thing, or whatever. The luck that you've wanted through those specific opportunities are happening when you engage with that new reality, because that thing has already happened for you. So you're able to then kind of connect with it. And of course, it's airy-fairy saying that right now, but it's all about moving through your life through intention and actions, and moving through life in the direction that you want your trajectory. So it's following the things that you really want to do and ignoring the rest as much as you possibly can. And you will eventually see that come to life. It can take a different amount of quote unquote time here in the sim. And I do believe that even if you're trying to get into a situation where, I don't know, there's all kinds of wacky fun stuff people say in the community, like different SPs, like you want to have a celebrity SP and there's only one of those celebrities SPs. Realistically, you could potentially get an SP that looks just like that person, that looks, talks, acts just like that celebrity SP. So that's your rendition of that. Or in the next lifetime or whatever, that could be the situation. Or you're trying to look for something or validate yourself outside of something, and once you come to that realization, the celebrity SP doesn't matter anymore, and it becomes kind of nonsensical. And I don't mean to insult anybody with this or say that your desires aren't valid, but sometimes it's a lot of desires are created because we're programmed, and we also duplicatively see other people's desires, and we make their desires ours through, again, that mirroring concept. And we can easily fall into social traps. We can easily fall into different just judgments about the world and how we think things should be, or what we see as perfect. And there's a lot of illusions, because this is all one large illusion. Most things you will see in the sim are some level of illusion. But again, if you want to train yourself, like for example, I've been attempting to train myself to see the sim, and it's been working. I've been able to look at it at times, and it looks staticky. It's as if I can see that it's like some sort of staticky code. And I will say, recently I was falling asleep, or I was in that hypnagogic meditation phase, and I was sitting underneath of a red light because I was doing like a red light therapy session. And while I was falling asleep, I actually started to see code. So I remembered, once I woke up and started thinking about the code that I was looking at, it reminded me of Dan Go Thoughts, that when they did the DMT hits and then they would put the red laser on the wall, they would see code. So I found it interesting that recently I've been seeing to where it's flickering and like staticky, and then in the hypnagogic state with that red light on, I was able to kind of see something that looked a lot like code, or some sort of like symbols, like hieroglyphs or something, that were kind of like falling. It was very interesting. And it was only during the time where I was basking under that red light. So I just thought that combination was weird. But I do believe that that's all the background that we're not supposed to see. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the lenses. Go click on one of them videos on YouTube where folks show you jars after like 5 years. You get like those high powered microscopes, and you see all those insane things that are floating around in it. Our human eye can't see barely anything. We see 0.00, I don't even remember what the number is, but we barely see a real fraction of anything in its true form. So everything is some sort of illusion, and it's recognizing what level of illusion, recognizing what level you're stuck at of consciousness in the illusion, at least coming to grips with it, because I have plenty of things in the illusion that I'm still addicted to, but understanding and seeing that and recognizing it, and at least trying to put your best foot forward as an avatar, and not letting the grandiosity of the simulation, so to speak, grab hold of you and take the best of what you want your desires to be, and not, living out other people's desires for them because you think that that's what you're supposed to do, like listening to your parents, or listening to a spouse, or listening to your friends or society on the way you're supposed to live your life, or how you're supposed to, do this or that. It's an interesting thing, and I think that once you start to focus in on these things, and I know I put money into thin air, and I wanted to talk about that too, because about focusing, I did focus on that for a long time, and I would often find money on the floor. I would find like 25-cent pieces, 10-cent pieces, and then bigger things started rolling in. So I got $100 gift card for free. I got a Coach bag for free. I went on to, somebody had said something about going on to unclaimed money, and I end up having a nice check in unclaimed money that actually got sent to me, and I was able to cash. And I did not realize that I had that kind of money unclaimed, which goes to show, it's like, I thought it was a much smaller amount. So how did it end up being that much money? It's like,
I felt like I left out a key part in this moment, so I wanted to come back and just put something out there for general thought. Can money come out of thin air? Is there money flickering out of other existences that land in this plane, that materialize from potentially other areas, or materializes from the sim at large out of thin air, if the person truly believes that it's a possibility for them and they train this possibility with the fact that they understand everything about the universe at large, but at the same time know that these things with rigor and practice can occur for them, just like it would occur for anybody within any respective field that they're working in. For example, if you like to trade and you focus on trading and you do nothing but trading and you fully commit and convince yourself that you're great at trading and you stay with that, do you become a master trader because of the fact that you are so closely in tune with all of those respective parallel realities where maybe they are potentially colliding to a certain degree, or you are aligning them all vibrationally, and you are able to then get all potential money through trading, for example. And shout out to whoever bought me that membership to Trade Brigade. I will be checking that out. If that was you, Champ Star, much love to you as usual. You are always someone who helps me think about a lot of next best things. So if it was you or whoever else on that channel, because you led me to that channel, I was gifted a membership. That's awesome. Again, another way that the sim will move you into a certain direction. I've taken an interest in trading, and there has been a lot of different things that have come my way to assist me with that attention that I've wanted to put on it, if you will. But I'm saying, let's go further. Let's get weirder. If you can find money out of thin air, did I have a check in another alternate copy reality where I had $1 million that was supposed to be given back to me? And because I so firmly believe now that money out of thin air is possible, that it starts opening up those branches of realities for me where I invite all kinds of potentialities of money out of thin air. I'm not trying to propose a dangerous idea here. It's more so something for you to personally experiment with. That's why I have it tattooed on me. I keep my visions to myself because these are extremely trippy experiments to have, but I'm sharing them with other people because maybe if you do them for yourself and you start seeing results, you can see that you can unlock this ability potentially within any avenue of your life, not just obviously money. That's just a really easy example because it's one of the drivers in the simulation, if you will. But we have been taught scarcity in such a grandiose way throughout all of existence that what if we flip that switch and started thinking in those type of mindsets and realities and mind frames, and that's why people are able to do insane things. I was watching the one YouTuber that interviews all of those extremely rich people. There's tons of billionaires in the world and in China just alone. So just thinking about that in my mind leads me to believe that they're on to something, and they're on to potentialities in their specific niches, whatever they're doing in their areas. They're able to make billions of dollars because they've figured out the formula within that specific area that they've decided to pay attention to. Often things that are very nichey, like money out of thin air, is extremely nichey in my opinion because nobody will believe it.
it's like how that feels like money out of thin air to me because I thought they only owed me like $500 and they gave me almost like triple that. So I don't know how that happened. And that's like, again, how did that come up? How was I triggered to look for that? Because somebody just in passing said it to me at work. And then I ended up looking and I found it and I applied for it and I got it back. So that was fun. And then on top of that, work in tech, and we got the highest one this couple past months for just business or what have you. So that was really awesome to receive as well, out of like all the years that I've been there. So it's like this money kind of coming out of like all these different places. And then on top of that, I've also been getting all these things, and it's silly to say, but it's just trying to show that it's possible as soon as you start to focus and realize that these things are within your sights. And once you realize that you have the power to shift into whatever type of situation you want to, the things are endless. You can teach yourself to do just about anything, really. And I know there's a lot of talk about CERN lately, and CERN is like, it feels like they're messing with stuff where they're like opening up portals and stuff, but they're like smashing particles together, and that's what ends up happening. The particles are going to like another place and then coming back. So that goes to show, and they've also proven it through like science, that there's probably some sort of parallel reality that they're kind of crossing over to when they disappear, so to speak. And there could be an infinite number of those parallel realities, again, which I do believe is the case. So CERN is doing all these things, and they're doing it for a reason. Why would they be bothering with this kind of thing if it wasn't producing insane type of results and energy and all kinds of answers to be provided regarding the quantum aspect of things, regarding the smallest molecular structures of the universe, so we can start to put answers to things. And I don't know, what are they doing over there? Are they like jumping to other timelines? Are they opening portals? They would all say no, but then there's a handful of people that would say yes. And it's like, who knows? I don't know. And aliens could be doing something with that. Like, I always feel like aliens show up when they do crazy things on the earth because they don't want us messing with it. And it's like, I've mentioned this before, are they just us in the future? They figured out the time problem and they're just like flying back and need like a piece of equipment or something. And I swear I heard somebody recently say there's like a book or something about that, which blew my mind because I never even heard of that. So it's like other people are thinking about this. It's a thing. And it goes back to the, also like, I wanted to talk about the Philadelphia project because I am from Philadelphia. So I found this one ridiculously interesting. The fact that it sounded like they were messing with all this energy stuff, and they had this boat that they wanted to kind of like fly by invisibly through, I don't know, through territory that they didn't want to be seen in, enemy territory. And they attempted to do it. And it seems like, again, they did this whole thing where in and out of realities. And it seems like when they came back, some of the people were whacked because they saw crazy things or what have you, or experienced. Some apparently were like caught in the hull of the thing as if like they merged with the boat. Like, think about that. That is so weird, as if like they were trying to like beam me up, Scotty, and during that process you like got messed up and like merged in with some of the structure. That is insane. And if any of that is true, it would go all back to this thing where things are shifting, flickering, pulsating, staticking in and out of different potential realities. And it's up to us to say it and not pretend like it's a joke or that it can't be possible. Because at this point, too many things are pointing in the direction that this is what it's looking like. And it would really change the way that we look at things and understand things and how we would interpret the universe at large. Basically, what I want to say is that I do believe that you are lucky if you say you're lucky, if you focus on experiencing luck, put yourself in the right places at the right time by following your gut and realizing that opportunities are all around you, and taking the opportunities when you identify them, when you can program your subconscious and your reticular activating system to see those opportunities for you, so you actually just automatically move towards them and it doesn't feel like pressure or any type of difficult situation for you. Like, we're all lucky if we say that we are. We all can get money out of thin air. We all can practice on seeing the funkier side of the sim, to where you can see the codes. Can you see the codes in the building? Can you see people in such crazy ways to where you're seeing their energy bodies and their auras, to where you're seeing the static electricity of the wall or what have you? You're seeing everything in electric form or some sort of like wave frequency form, because that's all it really is. And I do believe if God were to look away from us and stop the focus, we would cease to exist. So we are all just one large awareness, like awareness of awareness of awareness, endless awarenesses, experiencing data to be able to just put back to again, ultimate consciousness. And it does equal all out to what I do believe is love. We come here to experience love, and that's the greatest emotion I think that we can have, like joy, love, excitement. We do come here for those. And even if we have lower, quote unquote, vibrational experiences, or like we feel crappy or depressed, I always try to look at it like this lately, is like, if you're on the other side, you don't get to experience these. Even if it is depression, for example, it's still this weird human emotion. If you're in the other world, you don't get to experience it. And that's kind of interesting way to look at it or think about it, because it's like, let it wash over you and have the experience, because this is the only place that you can get that experience. And even if sometimes it feels like a lower quality experience, it's an experience needless. It's still data. It doesn't technically make it any much more better or worse than any other experience, technically, because the simulation is honestly a neutral machine. It's here for us to come down and put our awareness internally on what we want to feel and emote and, discuss and experience, really. So it's up to us to create our inner world to then reflect the outer, which it always ends up doing in the long run. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video and you realize that you have so much more power than you realize. And day by day, when you start looking at the world this way, you start seeing it in this way. So then your reality and your perception becomes much more differently than other people. You are lucky. You can walk out and hit the lottery. You can have money out of thin air. You can see the funky side of the world. You understand that there's more than meets the eye. You know that there's lots of rich history and understanding that's going on that will only make you better and better each day. Till the next time, guys, I know you're all going to continue to manifest magic and resonate on your most aligned frequency. All right, bye, guys.